Okay, so this is a redo of the gear overview, the equipment cache for the heavy rescue for our crew. I got some feedback and they said they wanted more detail, so I'm going to go into more painstaking detail. What's our mission profile? So why do we carry all the stuff we carry on it? And it goes back to what the calls could be in our area. We're in a valley and we have mountain ranges on both sides. So we have that aspect, and we have all the traditional fire-based things like confined space and trench, and a whole plethora of other unknown possibilities, tower rescue as well. And our crew is 6-handed at this station. Our sister station has 8. And so we have to pack everything in a certain way, and I'll get into the why we carry what we carry and why we pack it the way we do. Like the heart and soul of our cache are these, what we call go packs, or rigging packs. So they're meant to grab and go someplace fast, and to do a variety of things that you would need to do for the 90% solution for your rope rescue tasks, like build a main line, a belay line, maybe both, build anchors, and build a haul system. So we have 4 of these rigging packs. 3 of them are the Courants, 1, 2, 3. The 4th one is the Conterra Reach, and this is just an older bag. Maybe, hopefully, we get another one of these to match, but the contents are all the same. So let's just go right into what this bag contains. So this is what it looks like when you pull it out, and when you open it up, every bag is going to have a set sub bag of 200 feet of rope. And not all the rope bags themselves are going to be the same. They look slightly different, and that's okay. But one thing is consistent, is that the rope that's in the bag, we pack it so that we can access both ends, so the bottom and the top. So the bottom end is right there. The top end is exposed on the top. And we clip these off with carabiners and scaffold or poacher's knots for rapid access. This is really handy if you want to do something fast, like a quick vertical confined space application. But we don't have to do it. We can de-rig this and build regular rope systems as we see fit. So every bag is going to have 200 feet of rope with 2 of the Pro Series ridiculously strong screw locking carabiners on them. So that's 2 out of a total of 6 of those screw locking carabiners. The other 4 are laid out in this bag, and we try to pack everything so that it's all contained, and when you open this bag out, like, nothing falls out. So everything is kind of clipped and has its place for the most part, with the exception of some Edge Pro. So another 4 of the big 50 kilonewton screw lockers, CMC Pro Series. So it's a total of 6 per rigging bag. 2 are already on the rope, and then 4 laid in. An additional 6 carabiners, freestanding carabiners that augment those screw locks. These are twist lockings. We have 3 of the Rock D twist locks, and then we have 3 of the twist lock pin safe quick locks. 1 steel tri-link, an ASAP Shorebread access with a traditional style ASAP. We have about 165 feet of the Sterling 6mm power cord. This is for building larger anchors over further distances. So when you need a lot of material, we can do that. And this is really strong, 4,000 pound tensile braking strength. On the top pouch, a 3-foot wire sling. You can basket or you can girth hitch anchors. And these also have a natural protection. So for anchors that have sharp edges, this is great. It works in a pinch. It's pretty fast and easy. We have one of those fire escape flash hooks that we can use for front tie oppositions, or anchors that may not be readily attainable. If we can find some nook or cranny to set an anchor, we can do that. A rigging plate is always a handy thing. Every pack will have one of those. We have 4 single sheath pulleys. 3 out of the 4s are the traditional Rock Exotic or CMC Omnis, and then the 4th single sheath pulley is the Rock Exotic Swivel-Beaner. Just gives us more options, and this is for something you can go fast and just quickly hook something up and then run it. So 4 single sheath pulleys. We have 1 double sheath pulley. The double sheath is usually going to be just for building our 5-to-1 simple mechanical advantages for the most part. One rope grab rescue sender. Our primary descent control device, multi-purpose thing, Petzl Maestro. With the Petzl Maestro is the Swivel-Beaner. This eliminates any confusion at the anchor on how it's oriented. Now all we have to do is worry about correctly routing the rope in the device. One Black Mamba anchor sling. Super strong, lightweight, small and compact, great to have. We also have a pre-rigged swiveling ID for descending, or we can use this as a descent control device, but our go-to is going to be the Maestro. Traditionally, tandem prusiks were short and long, and so that's kind of where this kind of stems from. We don't really do tandem prusik belays anymore, and traditionally we've packaged these by tying them with an overhand together in a pair, but we're just going to leave everything loose. We'll still package 2 longs, 2 shorts, but nowadays we primarily use this for just rapid, quick, fast anchor building applications. But we can always do tandem prusik belays even though they're antiquated. So as far as anchor building material, fast anchors that are pre-sewn slings, we can just wrap something around really quickly. The Texor sling, a fast go-to anchor. The wire strop, a fast go-to anchor. If we need to construct a series of anchors or much larger anchors that we need to wrap around, that's where the power cord comes into play. But we can't forget about our classic 1-inch mil-spec tubular webbing. And we can get carried away with how much webbing we carry. We want to streamline the kits, and this takes up a lot of bulk. So we want to be very cautious with how much we actually put in here. Black is 30 feet, yellow is 20 feet, and green is 10 feet. That's all the webbing I think we'll need in a pinch for an assortment of things we need to do. But really tying anchors with webbing should be your secondary. The primary should be just to get something really quick that you can hitch around with our Black Mamba slings, our prusiks, and our wire strop. But if you need to do anything else, like webbing, always comes in handy. We shouldn't have any more or any less in terms of prusiks and webbing. It can get out of control really fast when people start throwing in extra gear in here. So we want to keep this thing to no more and no less than what you see. By default, our Edge Pro, every bag is going to have the hard edge guards to slide on. And the cordage that is pre-rigged on here is unmistakably different from the life safety things. This is 2 mil cord with old non-locking, just beaners that came from climbing quick draws. So the concept is you lay out your Edge Pro, this beaner stays with the sling, and then the additional cordage on the other beaner goes at the anchor. And if you zoom in here, the 2 mil cord has a loop already attached in it. So the idea is you flake this out and then you just attach your loop to the Edge Pro, and then the rest of this gets anchored, and then you lash it down, hitch it off as you set your distance. So it's meant to be fast and easy for people to set Edge Pro. And we also have our canvas wrap that we lay flat. We don't really store this folded because inevitably if you actually do want to use it, what do you have to do? You have to actually unfold it. So you lay it flat. It can be just canvas, or we can hook it statically and then wrap ropes around it. But it has its own beaner too, and then if you needed to set it, that's where this comes into play, and you can alternate. There is more intensive edge protection and another 5th rigging bag that I'll cover in a second, but all these rigging packs have the sheets and the inventory that you need to figure out what's in it. So if you're confused, you can follow this. It'll tell you exactly what's supposed to be in it. Every rigging bag also is going to have the confined space permit, because a lot of the rope work we do also applies to confined space. So in a pinch, if you're looking for some sort of flow or some sort of chart, every bag has these two, the inventory and a confined space permit. Let's move on to the 5th rigging bag. So bag number 5, so 4 rigging bags are all the same. Each bag has 200 feet of 11 mil rope. And the 5th rigging bag is the specialty bag. This one doesn't have rope. Kind of reserve this for more intensive edge protection and more advanced rope operations that we want to do, such as high lines and offsets. Okay, So we keep a load cell in here specifically for our highline. So if we're going to do a highline, a load cell is like the one thing where we would actually incorporate, like in real life, in an operation, is for highline. So the load cell, CMC Enforcer load cell in with our kit. For the highline components, this is the carriage assembly. Okay. This is specifically meant for a reeving system. So the package attaches here. The bite for the Norwegian or the English reeve feeds through here. And these used to be prussics on these sides, but this attaches to each side of the rope on that bite. So this is for your reeving highline assembly. And then the main carriage assembly for your highline is here, but this also does offset applications. This will also do skate blocks, tracking lines, tracking line hybrid skate blocks. And so it's set up by default for a dual track line oriented horizontally. And you can use these or not use these. This just gives you options. They're always here. And I have other videos where I cover what this does for you, and you can actually see it. In addition to, we have accessory items for the highline assembly. These are to handle the critical point issues that may occur. For example, we keep a blue prussic and a carabiner in here to handle the critical point. If you connect this into some sort of system, or the tri-link into some sort of system, you could say that this tri-link and the swivel is a critical point. Therefore, you could take your prussic, wrap whatever you're connected to down here, like a litter bridle or something, and then wrap it in and connect it into the rings, and now you're backed up, so you have redundancy there. So that takes care of that critical point issue. Freestanding ASAP is just if we want to use one of these shock absorbers as an independent self-belay option, so we don't have to run a belay line. And then 2 dynamic fixed length lanyards for connection points for rescuers or subjects, victims, whatever. So 2 options here. If we have to have 2 people on, this is just an additional backup connection for them. Their primaries are probably going to be on something else that they carry with them, like Aztecs, for example. Our go-to Edge Pro really should be the Edge Roller. So we have 50 feet of cord, and the way this works is it's already tied off on its center point. So you're going to have 25 feet that flakes out to the left and right that we weave through here. So everything that you need to set this edge roller is already pre-set and good to go. This really should be like your de facto default Edge Pro because it takes care of a lot of the friction. And if we don't have to build artificial high directionals, then we won't, because that takes time and manpower. So this is something to consider every time for us. Also, we have larger canvas Edge Pro. We have a small, medium, and large. And all the Canvas Edge Pro also has its own slings, its own unmistakably different set of cordage and beaners that are intended to help rig that up quickly. So this is small canvas. Same thing, medium canvas. It also has its own set of beaners and 2 mil. And then our large canvas. So we should also always kind of consider putting this stuff down first and then going to like edge guards or edge rollers on top of that. Because what's going to kill you is ropes getting cut over an edge or severed. Also, a variety of additional edge protection. The Sterling wrap is a good option. It has different options for how you want to incorporate that to protect your ropes. As well as 3 Rock and Rescue Velcro straps. Similar to what we carry in the 4 rigging bags. So we can fold these out and then secure them. These are great for rappel lines. So if we have a static line, these prussics wrap around the static rappel line and this goes over the edge to protect it. So 3 of those. So an assortment of possibilities for Edge Pro in the 5th rigging bag. Also, we have a messenger line, sorry, not a messenger line, a pilot line. I forget how far we can go with this or how much cord is in here, but we have the weight. We can chuck this, throw it. I'll get into the line gun in a second. We don't have a slingshot, but this is just to send lines across spans. 2 rescue senders of the newer style. that have integrated pulleys already in them for fast haul system hookup applications, as well as cordage here, so you can do remote resets to reset your throw if you need to. Also, 2 captives. Also, the older style rescue cylinders, we're keeping these in here specifically for tensioning highlines because these actually provide slip values at higher loads than the captos, while these will de-sheath the rope at those slip values that these won't. So an assortment of rope grabs that we can use, but if we're doing highlines, that's why we're keeping the old style in here. Even though they're kind of cumbersome with the pens, they still work really great for highlines. The 2-rope offset or the cross haul, optional master attachment point assembly. So you take your 2 ropes on one side, 2 ropes on the other side, and then your package can rotate here, and then long tails coming down as a secondary. Optional, but it's really slick. It works really well. It's as light as I can make it. The delta is actually aluminum. One carabiner, if we want to use captos for highline applications, we can join them together. If we're going to tension like a dual track, we can do that. And they would just be joined together like that. So that's optional. Petzl L1Ds, these are for fast directionals. We can hook to something directly, or we can wrap around and then hook it back on itself for nice directionals that go in one direction. So on a haul, it's a high efficiency pulley, and then on a lower, it doesn't move, so it adds friction, so it helps us out. So we have 2 of these. These are also good for if we want to belay with our ASAPs. So when we belay with our ASAPs, the shock absorber here on a haul, if we didn't have this in here, it would collapse, and that would introduce a shock force potential. That may be unwanted, and so this is sized specifically to hook directly where the same point is at the anchor of the ASAP, and then the ASAP would actually sit right here on the haul, and the rope would just route through here. So really handy to have if you're going to belay with an ASAP. So 2 of those. And then finally, an additional anchor slings, some rhino slings, some tough, just fast rigging options. 65 feet of power cord. This is good for lashing artificial high directional legs together, hobbling straps. It's not as much power cord as in the 4 main rigging bags, but it's an option for sure. More sewn webbing, distinctly different color from the others. And then a beefy 6-foot I&I anchor strap. So that's rigging bag number 5. Behind all these 4 rigging bags is a complement of 300-foot rope bags. So we have 4 200-foot rope bags and 4 300-foot rope bags that sit behind every rigging bag. So 1 behind here, 2, 3, and then 4 right there. We also have a 200-foot rope for confined space rescue. It's a pre-rigged 4-to-1 block and tackle system for those that just want to do something fast in a pinch. The bottom end is a double sheave swivabiner, and then the top block is the CMC CSR pulley system. So pre-rigged kit specifically for hooking up into a tripod. That's 200 feet. That'll only give you about maybe 50 feet of usable distance down a shaft, but it's an option for something you want to hook up really fast and just go. Any additional software that we used to have and just piled in our rigging bags, we have our own bag for it. So all that is just a bunch of webbing, 1-inch tubular webbing, and a whole bunch of long and short prussics. So any excess goes in there. If we exhaust our main rigging bags, we can default to using that. We have a miscellaneous hardware bag too. For all the one-offs, random oddball things, rigging plates, spare ASAPs, some pulleys, carabiners, but it all comes out on a Metolius sling. So if we come up with any shortages, we can kind of revert back to this miscellaneous rigging bag of hardware. There's no rhyme or reason why this is here or what's supposed to be here. This is just excess stuff that's usable that we could use if we needed to. But it by no means is something that we're going to take out as a front line or as a default. Okay. Two large knot passing pulleys. These are Kootenai pulleys. We can use these in dynamic directionals, deflection offsets, or other applications. They come in handy. In addition to the 4 IDs we have in each rigging bag, so that's 4 IDs in the rigging bags, plus an additional 4 standalone IDs. Same concept. Swiveling has this integrated carabiner into it. So it's 8 total IDs. We also have 8 total Aztecs. So the idea is these things will typically be grabbed by our personnel as, you can treat it as PPE. So a lot of people on our crew, a lot of people in the department have their own Aztec because it's very personal to them. But the way we carry the ones that are on the rig, there's 8 of them. Every one is going to have a black twist lock Camp 40 kilonewton Atlas carabiner. These carabiners will only be seen in the Aztecs, nowhere else. It's unmistakable, and every Aztec is going to have a sewn bound loop 8mm Prusik that's going to be red in color. They're all that way. On the set of 4s, every Aztec on both ends is going to have the wire eye Rock O carabiner, and the reason why we have these here is because a lot of times we take Aztecs and we like to pin them in Vortex heads, and this just gives us the option to take this off if we need to. However, at the same time, it's an indicator that says maybe these things should stay with the kit, and that's the intent, even though you can just take them out. Every Aztec will have these on the ends of their set of 4s. And then the standard travel restraint end, it's just your Purcell with your screw length. Hopefully in the future, maybe we can change the Purcell out and get all safeguards to make it a lot more user-friendly, but we'll see. We like to keep these packaged a certain way. I have another video on this where I took about 15 feet, marked it as the divider, so right there. So 15 feet on the inside end is your travel restraint section, and then the rest of the cordage with the set of 4s is on the outside end. And we always pack these up so that the travel restraint end is out and fed into the slot so that you can see it. And it just makes things nice and clean so people aren't second guessing anything. So 8 of those. 1 industrial I-beam anchor. We open this up, we clamp it around the I-beam, seal it shut, and the anchor that we rig to is right there. So big, heavy for industrial applications. Whenever we want to do improvised anchoring in the mountain environment, the urban mountain interface, or if we're going up the canyon, a whole bag of pitons with a hammer, and then the Tricam active / passive rock pro that recreational climbers use. This works pretty well up in the mountains. So we have 2 full sets ready to go on the Coleus slings. And the carabiners that come with these are the Kong twist locks. One set, they're all red Kong twist locks. The other set, they're all silver. So you're not going to see these carabiners anywhere else other than just on the Tricam kits. And every kit or every sling has its own tool as well. And the idea with these is that you just grab them, put them on your shoulder, and then grab whatever rigging bag you need, and then just go hike, and then you're self-sufficient for the most part. Not going to show what's in this bag. This would be a tower rescue kit, but some of the contents are pretty old. We're working on upgrading it, but for our tower rescue capabilities, something quick that could satisfy a team of 2 climbing up the tower to effect a rescue. Fall protection things, fall arrest lanyards, green on lanyards, etc. So to be continued on the tower rescue / fall protection bag. Up here we have an assortment of harnesses. Those are meant for people that rove in or rescuers that might need a harness. In our department, we all have harnesses issued to us, so they're personal to us. But if somebody needs one, they're available. Those aren't for patients or victims or subjects. And then a helmet is for a subject, patient, or victim. So we can give that helmet to them. And then if we're doing just pickoffs for people who are only minorly injured or not injured at all, we have the seat harness for them. So let's go over what this looks like. We have an optional chest conversion. It's not really a conversion to a full body harness, it's just like a cradling system. But the seat harness itself, the seat harness is, the bag is part of the harness, so you can't really get rid of that. We rigged this up so that we also have the wire eye carabiners in here. The Purcell is optional, but it helps with pickoffs. And so this is all set up as an indicator that maybe it belongs here and you shouldn't take things apart. If we want to provide some more cradling comfort to our subject, that's where the optional chest harness comes in. And again, it has everything we need to hook into the system. So we hook our guests in mainly here as well as here. This is a prusik that can be wrapped around a long tail of a long tail bowline because we do long tail bowlines pretty much exclusively, almost. So this is that second attachment point or the backup system. And then this also clips into the harness. So all the carabiners that are in here are all the Rocco wire eye as an indicator that it belongs here and you shouldn't take it out and cannibalize it and put it somewhere else. Okay. Our Vortex. So we have a Vortex Plus. So in each blue bag we have 5 outer legs and 2 inner legs. And we have 2 blue bags, so that's a total of 10 outer legs and 4 inner legs for a Vortex. We keep pins anywhere in our Vortex system where logically, if you were going to assemble a Vortex or a frame, you would slide something on top of something else and then you would pin it. And so anywhere that would happen in that interface, we pre-rig a pin so that it sits there so that nobody is hunting down the one person or the one place where we collectively would store a whole bunch of pins in one spot. Because we would rig different components of our Vortex in different places. For example, sometimes we might be doing a sideways A-frame in one location, and then in another location we're using parts of the Vortex to just build anchors. And so we want just what we need when we grab the parts, and each part that needs a pin is going to have a pin already ready to go. I don't want to pre-rig a pin down here because, for example, if I slide a blue head onto here, well, the blue head already has its own pin. And so now we create confusion because people are like, oh, I don't need this here, so I'm just going to use that here, and this gets lost. Well, no, you need it down here for something else because this has to connect into something. So every component to our Vortex has a pin pre-rigged, ready to go. It eases the possibility that these things can get lost. We also have one additional inner tube that we cut. And this is mainly to give us options for rigging, various rigging applications. So in our third bag here on the Vortex components, we took one inner tube, cut it down, and now we have options for just building anchors, various other types of small things that we can do. And then one additional inner tube. So in all, a total of 5 inner tubes, 10 outer tubes, and then the one additional inner tube that's cut into half. I can't remember the terms, stimpy, gimpy, nubby, whatever you want to call these. We also have a full Azorb head as an adjunct to our Vortex, but it can be standalone anchor plates as well, so a pair. We have 2 blue heads and only 1 orange gin pole head. So 2 blue heads, 1 orange gin pole head. We also carry long prusiks, 4 really long purple prusiks. These are meant for guying an A-frame onto track lines in a highline system. So they're just sewn slants, they're long. They're meant to piggyback onto track lines for highline. And they're labeled axial guying prusiks for highlines using Vortex AHDs, quantity 4. So we found that trying to do that with sewn prusiks that are already manufactured is difficult, so we have to custom make them for that application, if we so choose to guy in that manner. And then of course, we have ratchet straps if people want to elect to hobble the legs of a Vortex that way. 3 raptor feet, 3 flat feet, and then 1 additional foot. 1 additional custom pintle hitch foot with a pin already preset in it so that we can hook up the lazy leg or easel leg of a high directional directly off of our heavy apparatus. Also in here, an assortment of other pintle hitches. We can even use soft shackles for rope rescue anchors if we need to, but we're kind of crossing, we're blending the extrication, heavy equipment, lifting, and rigging with rope rescue, so I don't want to get too far into the weeds on soft shackles. Any kind of hoisting or lifting that we need to do or that we can do off the side of a rig, that's where our winches are very handy. They come in handy. One is the Amcus capstan. The other is the Skyhook, the Harken Skyhook. So the Amcus capstan, really heavy tool, electric powered. This thing definitely needs to stay attached to the rig through a receiver hitch. So that's one. Again, this is for if we have limited manpower, we can rig this and we don't need a significant haul team and we don't need to build elaborate mechanical advantage systems with pulleys. Same thing with our Skyhook Harken 40 radial winch. Skyhook makes the base plate. The winch itself is made by Harken. So standard sailing winch, basically. That's all it is. I have other videos on the winch itself. So, and the reality is we aren't hauling this or dragging this around with us. We're probably just going to operate these things off of the road or off of our vehicles. Okay, we have 2 litters. The bottom one, the yellow one, the red one, is not pre-rigged for rope work, but we can use it in a pinch. We just have to get creative with the rigging and rig it from scratch, but it's already preset with all the Fireground Rapid Intervention Team stuff. But our go-to rigid litter basket, take this out. Okay, comes with its own internal lashing, which is the yellow, with a patient harness, and the pre-manufactured external lashing, blue and red CMC cross lashing, and then the bridle. So the bridle, kind of a custom application. We wanted the maximum versatility, and I have plenty of other videos where you can see how this works, but micro swivel to the carabiner, to the cam of the connect adjust, the older style connect adjust, all the way up on both sides to a pair of double rings for the head bridle. For the foot bridle, it looks like a standard Aztec, but we split the opposite end, the opposite block, split the pulleys out, and then we do the Petzl S1 opens because they have the ability to hook in directly to a sling further down on the stanchions. And then on the very rear, traditionally we kept the Purcells in here as a remnant of the old tri-bridle setup, the Thorn tri-bridle setup, but this comes in handy for steep angle work when you want a litter tender to be hooked in at the very base of the litter. We can just route this through and we can adjust where that tender wants to connect, and then we can even shorten it up very, very short and then hook in that way. The litter also comes with its own system for lashing the feet. So we just extend the Purcell out, wrap the feet, and hook these up to stanchions. That'll prevent any harness hang syndrome or orthostatic hypotension, whatever you want to call that term. Also, a V-strap. So if we want to haul over these tough edges and we don't want to use a high directional or we don't have the manpower at the time, the V-strap lives at the foot of the litter. Okay, so for any anchoring you want to do in just soil, you can use ground pickets. And instead of doing Spanish windlasses or whatever, we just have these 2 preset anchor rigging plates by RQ3. There's a little tapered end that elevates off the ground, and so you hook in your carabiner for your anchor and your operating device here, and then you just pound your pickets in. And then all the pickets are here. So, but we're crossing over into other disciplines somewhat. Okay, so the sked is Seldom used. It has its place. We don't use it very often. I won't say hardly ever, but not very often. But the sked has rope already pre-reeved into a bridle, as well as all the things you would need for a vertical hoist. So inside we also have a pick-off strap and another cell. These two items are meant, because when we hoist a sked, we're usually doing it in a vertical application. So again, we cradle the feet of the patient and we route up. And then this is to secure them on their harness to a higher point so that their whole torso is secure. So this is the internal lashing component if we want to rig sked in a vertical orientation hoist. And this is to prevent the harness hang syndrome, orthostatic hypotension, suspension trauma, whatever you want to call it. And the beaners are specific as well. Again, wire eye, just as an indicator that they belong here and you shouldn't take them off. Even though you can, we discourage that. Our go-to for kind of hoisting out of tight spots and confined spaces and trenches is the spec pack. This is the newer one. This is for if we want to use it in actuality and for hoisting. We also have the older spec pack, which is the same thing. It's just beaten up. So this one just is only meant for dragging because some of the lifting points are kind of worn a little bit. So we have one that we can beat up in training for dragging, and then one nicer one that's newer that we can use to actually hoist. A 600-foot pre-rigged dual track highline / tracking line hybrid assembly kit. It's pretty heavy, comes in this big bag. So 600 feet of line, 11 mil. On the heavy, we have 2 load cells. The one load cell that's in that 5th specialty bag, paired with highline rigging options. The other highline system that we would potentially use is the 600 footer, and that's why we have our second load cell paired with that. Now we can use load cells if we're curious for testing and other things, but when we store them with equipment, we store them for some operational purpose. So that's why we have 2 load cells and we pair them with what we would actually use them for in an actual op. So one being the 600-foot hybrid tracking line / track line, highline, dual track, pre-rigged kit. So one load cell that comes with that. It's on the top, so when you take this whole thing out, we have the pre-rigged part to this that hooks up to our pintle hitches. So the idea being, if we're gonna tension a highline, we want some heavy, beefy bomber equipment on the far side. That's what this is, and the swivel helps self-tend so that we don't have to worry about it getting twisted when we drag it across the span. And a huge anchor sling for good measure. When we rig this up, it comes preset with its own pulley, and it says far side anchor 2 winch, so we know which way to orient our strands. And everything on the pintle hitch is preset. This is for a main working line directional that's preset in here. It's not going to come off. And then we have our rope grab that we bypass. So the jumper is here. This never really sees tension. The rope grab sees tension, and we put our load cell between the 2 carabiners. And then this all gets tensioned up and we can keep track of our forces that way. So that's why everything is preset and pre-rigged in here. It takes all the guesswork out of having to figure out how to put it back together, or when people kind of de-rig things, a lot of times if these things aren't preset in here, they'll take the whole thing apart and nobody knows how to put it back together again. So that's why these things are here the way they are. And that's why we tie off to the neck with, this is just a figure 8, but whatever, we just tie this off. This isn't important because this doesn't ever see any tension. If we come up short on our bite, and our bite gives us, we're shy of 300 feet because we go back to a directional to our winch and we coil up some around. So we lose some length of rope, and so maybe 280 feet is about as far as this will take us. If we can't get further than that, we always have options to bring another rope and then attach it to the end here and then extend it, or we can just untie the terminal end of this, and then we don't have to treat this as a dual track line. We can treat it as a single track line if we want to. But usually in those cases, we're doing some sort of long tracking line from the high side on opposite, and we're keeping that cant area. But that's what the kit looks like. The last thing we have rigging wise, recent addition is the line gun. So a gun to launch basically dental floss, more or less. So a big bucket of disposable line that we can just pop the cap off, attach the football, tie it in, shoot it, and we can set lines over spans. In addition to the pile line that we have in that specialty rigging bag. So that's every piece of rope rescue related equipment that I can think of that we have on the heavy. We can also augment and use things that we use like chain hoists and come-alongs, but that's not very practical, especially if we have to transport it in some place. So a lot of our equipment, some of it's heavy, some of it's bulky, some of it's small, some of it's light, and that just complements a wide range of mission sets or mission profiles that we potentially could have to respond to. So that includes the urban environment, includes the mountains, the backcountry. We could be anywhere doing who knows what at any moment's notice. So we want everything to be easily identifiable, packable, ready to deploy, ready to carry, and well organized.